Hey, welcome everyone to our June Contributor Spotlight. And I'm so honored and happy today to introduce you, if you have not yet met her, to the amazing Merryman Cassels, another Humans Evolving contributor, and just an exceptional woman offering wonderful gifts to the planet. And she has a variety of offerings, but today we're going to focus on astrology. And she's also a great friend. So I look forward to all of you being able to commune and connect with her. And Merriman, I'd love to just drop in. Does that feel good for you?
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Could you begin by just explaining a little bit around astrology? What does that mean? What is it important for us to understand when we hear that word?
I love that question. Thank you so much for asking it because astrology is a big buzzword right now. And if you social media, everywhere you turn, there's a different explanation of how the energies are manifesting. And I think they're all valuable, or many are valuable. But the truth of the astrology is for our remembering how to live in alignment with the cosmos. Our Creator is always speaking to us. We are sparks of the divine, carrying this beautiful energy. And with this remembrance, we are able to look not only at the stars, but the earth around us, at each other, and receive the guidance to live in the flow. This doesn't mean that life is perfect and we are infallible and we get everything we want all the time. This means that we're living in a space of acceptance that allows us to fully just live in the joy and the glory of being a spirit embodied and having this experience. And, this allows the heaven on earth that so many faiths and mystery schools speak of, that it can exist, but it's not how we define it. It is how we live in the flow.
Mm. I love that so much. I personally have had an affinity towards astrology for a couple decades now, and just that we're like as above, so below.
Right.
Really connecting into the cosmology of who we are just feels inspiring and empowering. How did
Correct.
you get on this path?
It is so funny thinking back throughout my life. And, I came to astrology as a career rather later in my life, as maybe in Act 3 or 4. But, it was 2012 and my life had unraveled, a divorce, children go off to college, just a whole different life, not what I was anticipating. And the big question of why? Why? How could I have worked so hard every day of my life to ensure that I would have this flawless, perfect life and thinking I was in control and coming face to face with the fact that there certainly is a power greater than me, higher than me, wiser than me, and that, the only way to learn to live in truth was to learn submission, to let go. And, 2012 brought me to an experience where I had this moment of knowing two things, quite frankly. One of them that alcohol was not, it was a false spirit, not a true spirit. So I needed to remove that from my life. And that's not for everyone, that's just for me. And that we were one spirit.
Mm.
And, I always laugh. I was telling some astrologers last night at dinner, this was big news to the president of the Debutante Club in North Carolina.
I love that. I
So,
Well, if I could, that's what I love so much about being in your presence, Merriman, is the life that you have lived. And yes, being, as you mentioned, being president of the debutante club, we can laugh about now, but that was definitely a form of identity for you.
Correct.
And it sounds like with the astrology, you just realized there was this veil to be lifted and so much more available.
Yes. It was time to lift the veil. It was like time to lift the veil on the truth and understand that this life that I had lived was beautiful and valuable and still has great value in many, many ways. It's not to be discarded, but the truth of my path was different. And to leap, not just walk, but to leap boldly into my truth, which meant, changing my whole world, changing my whole focus, owning. Whereas yesterday, having a remembering that as I think back into my lineage, what would be my lineage of my understanding, that we as women held our magic in plain sight. And then we became wearier and wearier and wearier until we forgot our magic. And now is a time of cracking open and remember, for each of us, remembering our magic and dancing with the stars, dancing with the planets, honoring the earth, and just reveling in this, as opposed to being in joy. Living in joy, raising the vibration and the consciousness of this planet through our joy, through our connection.
I love that so much. And it is something that I feel called to with the Humans Evolving platform, that we are all just evolving. And can we move into that space with joy? Can we lift the veil of our life and, with curiosity, question it? And then find our true expressions of joy. And on a practical matter, a practical reality, I think, is astrology to help us do that.
Absolutely.
Could you talk a little bit, for those listening, some of you who are listening were able to be with Merriman in January at the Sedona retreat and had major insights into your lives as looking through the charts. Could you just give us a little bit of like an astrology 101 at Merriman in terms of when you look at someone's chart, what that means and what could come up for someone?
Thank you. Well, I love that. And outside, I do want to acknowledge what you're doing. I mean, Jennifer, you're really creating a powerful platform. You're connecting powerful people. You're connecting thought leaders. And these are the individuals that will be embracing their astrology, knowing themselves. We spend so much of our lives asking, who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? I'm in my office downtown and I'll have clients all day and we'll talk about, who are you? Why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing? The astrology gives us a beautiful blueprint for who we are. And as we're evolving and over the next few years, as we are crossing this axis into the Aquarian age, we are awakening. We have young people being born who will know astrology, who will bring their children into the world knowing astrology. And so they will know how to, the care and feeding. We do come with owner's manuals. So the 101 is when I look at a chart, I'm really starting by looking at your ascendant, which is where the sun was at the time of your birth, coming over the horizon. We often think of our sun sign as being the true indication of our personality. That might be that is a mask, that is a part of who we are out there in the world, but a part of our real truth is with our ascendant. And then when we're able to look at the planet that rules that ascendant and see the aspects that it's making, we're putting together this story of who are you? And then we can look at who is your father as we look at your IC. We can look at who is your mother as we look at your midheaven and the planets that rule those and their relationships they're having. Who will be your life partner? We can see what your money story is going to be in the second house. We can see who your children are. We can see what types of health crises you may experience in your lifetime so that you can begin to tailor your diet and exercise to really be conscious of what might be the trap down the road. So we can look at your career, your hopes and dreams, your subconscious.
I love that. As I mentioned, have just dabbled in astrology for a couple decades now. And I remember in the mid 2000s, I was really just seeking who is my partner, and wanted to be advised by my chart and had an expert such as yourself provide me some guidance. And a big part of that guidance was it's just not going to happen right now.
Right.
It's on your chart. It's just not going to. So
Correct.
really, it's like, where are you going to put your energy? My chart was advising, put your energy in yourself. He's going to come around 2010. And then sure enough, as my chart had indicated, kind of this out of the box, outgoing, person on a spiritual path
Wonderful soul.
and that is what happened. And I loved what you mentioned earlier about surrender, kind of surrender this preconceived notion of how our life is supposed to be. Can we just trust in the flow and not attach ourselves so much to the chart, but use it as you mentioned, the blueprint, the compass. I love that advice.
Yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned that about not becoming too attached to the chart. I'm an astrologer. I do not look at the chart every day. I am not factoring the transits every day to what's going to happen to me, and then again try to move into the driver's seat of my life. This is an opportunity to know myself, to have some awareness of what themes may be for a certain year or period of time. And we've had some big astrological events of late that are shifting us as a global community. But not becoming a prisoner to that, choosing to try and use astrology as a launch pad for your own personal agenda will backfire. Using astrology as a current to join forces with and flow is a superpower.
Oh, I love that. Using it as a current, allowing it to express. That's how we live lighter as well.
That's right. That's right. And that's how we live also in, just divine acceptance of one another.
So beautiful. And, that piece you just mentioned, this divine acceptance of one another, to me feels like in this time is growing and so important. And there's also a lot of divisiveness occurring.
Correct.
And could you just talk about maybe a little bit the astrology of these times, and then bring in a little bit around what we can expect this month as we're just entering into June?
I love it. Well, it's a very powerful time. Everybody's been talking about Pluto in Aquarius, back into Capricorn, all of this dance that Pluto's doing. We love Pluto. We don't mess around with Pluto. We honor Pluto and appreciate the work that he's doing to recultivate us. That might be a very good word for you, a gentle word. But we've had something very powerful happen 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago on Saturday. Jupiter moved into Gemini. And we'll be there for the next year. And this is exciting. It's youthful energy. It's brotherly love. It's, giving us the opportunity to bring forth ideas, to communicate, This is so exciting. And then yesterday at 8:33 in the morning, we had a Venus star point. And so I won't go into the long explanation of the Venus star point, but Venus takes, oh gosh, it's 8 years to complete a star point. They're 5 star points, and they're currently activating in Gemini at 14 degrees, and then Aries, and I'm going around. So Capricorn, Scorpio, and Leo. So those are the points that are activated, not in that order, but it's currently activating at Gemini. And so we're going to hear a lot of communication. There's a peace summit around the war in Ukraine mid-month that is interesting. There's also activation around Netanyahu having to make decisions over this month. I'm not going to go too far in the politics of this, but when we're talking about these different energies, that the star point's hitting and knowing that it's in Gemini, Venus is moving into the point of being an evening star. When she's a morning star, she's a warrior. She's been a morning star. She's moving into the point, she'll go underground. If we go back to the story or the mythology of Demeter and Persephone, she'll go underground and then she'll reemerge as an evening star. That is a lover. This is peace. This is love. We held ceremony here in Sedona Monday evening, each of us holding a point of the star with our wishes and our prayers, with a unified prayer with Linda Tucker from South Africa, with the White Lions of Timbavati, with Adam Shield of Feather representing our indigenous populations, with Cassiopeia representing our youth with Gemini, with Maurice Fernandez, a very accomplished scorpionic astrologer, holding the water, and another woman, Renee Reagan, and I holding Capricorn as the elder energy, the remembering, and the prayer being, and the energy that we are asked to flow into is remembering this sense of love, of brotherly love, and having these conversations. Interestingly, after this very powerful activation, when I was returning home, I was met outside by a neighbor who wanted to confront me about being an astrologer and what my faith was, and being very activated. And I had the wisdom, maybe walking a few years on this planet, to understand this shift that happened rustles up fear and anxiety in others. And rather than responding, which I really wanted to do, I was really just able to say, you know what, I honor you where you are, and this conversation's over.
I love all of that for so many reasons. And thank you for giving us a real kind of universal, like, look at this. So beyond our chart into the greater chart, the collective chart. And in these times, and that's, with the human evolving, of course, for myself, Kriya is a great way to help us come back to center. The breath work with the astrology, really just having a greater, deeper understanding. It's like all of these tools we just talked about tapping last month help us to peel back on the layers of self so that we can be the leader, the visionary, the guide, the teacher who is able to just sit or stand in the power of her own knowing without the reaction. And hearing that prayer too, I just want to remind everyone out there, how beautiful is that, coming together as a collective to be in ceremony. And of course, you using kind of the greater chart as the guide. But we can all do that, when we're looking to bring a greater sense of acceptance, of universality. Where is it that I may be causing separation? Because in your example, you could have went down a path that just created more separation. but you chose to speak from your heart and then close the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And thank you for modeling that, because I think all of us have had situations, whether it be years past or right now, that we're
We
dealing with.
will have more right now because as the energy shifts, people do move into a space of fear and they begin to respond this way. So it is a very important reminder. I remembered, I had the good fortune of remembering the lesson was mine.
Mm,
It wasn't my job to teach, to change, to do anything, to fix, manage, or control anyone else. It was my job to work on me. And so we'll have a Gemini new moon tomorrow. And so we're having a lot of this Gemini energy, which can often mean having to do things twice. So being in the space of patience, not getting frustrated with self because you may have to be doing things twice or each other. Also, really, when you're speaking, really make sure that you are thinking as you speak. The Gemini energy is youthful, it can be very quick, and to slow down and listen to what you're saying and listen to what others are saying. And it's probably a good idea to repeat back to be sure that you're picking up the nuance of the conversation.
I love that in terms of just tips and techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone listening, again, I want to restate the piece of that teaching was mine. Because as a human evolving, that teaching is mine, and there's we can always go deeper in our own understanding of self and our growth. And then also, Merriman, thank you for the reminder of just the listening. That is active communication. And I think so often, I have a Gemini ascendant, by the way. So often when the mind is quick and you can put together things quickly, you just want to, you take a leap forward, even if you're not saying anything, and how to
Right.
come back to presence and just be so available to the other. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, our time is nearing an end, but for me, this is also it's always so inspiring. And I just want to also let the audience know who's listening, Merryman has a plethora of other extraordinary offerings. And another reason I love Merryman is because she, we talked about the debutante, but also has been a very successful business owner, outside of just astrology. And it's what we're here to do is to normalize these practices. You can be an incredible astrologer and own a highly successful retail business. It's this time for us to merge all these together and work with these ancient tools, the science, and of course there's an art to this, but the science that was given to us ages and ages and ages ago.
Right. I'm remembering.
Merryman, is there anything else you'd like to offer us just in closing? Before we do just I have a fun little question for you to complete, but
I love it. I love it. I think remembering all of this powerful energy that's in Gemini this is a time for beautiful, beautiful open communication. It's also a time where it's okay to say, I'm going to turn off my phone, or I don't need to respond to every email or put some response because so much information is going to be coming through. You may feel overwhelmed and you may feel like you want to shut down. It's okay. You can only take in so much information and it's only going to ramp up over time. So starting to define in this period of time how much intake you want to allow and what you want to allow. It's very important also to limit what what resources you allow in, because these are actively shifting our minds, all that we're taking in. So there's a real call. Maybe it's a directive from me. I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit of wisdom, to be very careful of the resources you're bringing in, so that your mind, your body, your response system, your nervous system is not overwhelmed.
Mm, thank you. Discernment is
Discernment,
key
but
here.
giving yourself permission.
Mm, thank you. And with that, it leads me into my last question. Obviously, astrology being that of more of an embodiment practice, we're focused on the cosmology of self, of other, of the collective. What other practices really help you to realign yourself, to express your joy? We'd love to hear what that is for you.
I love that. I love that. Well, I also love the Kundalini yoga, and just find also being in your classes just transformative, but also being able to practice on my own, being able to practice on my own, bringing that in. I think the breath work is also an element of Gemini that is so important, of this Gemini energy and this Gemini time, really working into a breath work practice. This is a way of using this respiration that we use for communication in a way that helps to align our minds and bodies. I think also bringing into a very old but very new practice of every action being a prayer throughout your day, slowing down and realizing the gift of getting to have this body and getting to experience it at every age and every state, the depth and the breadth of what it is to be human. Make that a prayer.
Oh, that's so beautiful and such feels like elder wisdom to me. No, really, it is
Thank
because
you.
there's such simplicity in that. But again, it goes back to what I've really heard throughout this is that state of remembering,
Yes.
that we are so supported.
We
We
are so supported. Mhm. We are that consciousness. So we hold it, and when we remove all the things or limit the things that distract us, we can see and remember again.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and close. And I just want to thank you so much.
Oh, I thank you for what you're doing and the light you bring and the children you've created and the husband who's so wonderful. So all of this, the
Well, we
home.
are all just humans evolving,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
All just humans evolving. And I do want to let everyone know who's listening that, Merryman is, of course, on the site. You can send her a chat. We'll have a little area connecting to her website, which has her direct email, her phone number. And you can also see, which we can talk about at another time with Merryman, Merryman, some of your work with Akashic Records as a beekeeper, all the goddess work you do, all the wisdom you bring in those spaces. I hope you will accept that invitation as well.
Thank you. I sure do appreciate your having me to chat with you and asking these wonderful questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We hope you have an amazing month, and we will be with you all again soon.